Welcome to our webcast entitled Streamlining Finance, HR, and Services Delivery at Alight. My name is Patrice Capello, and I'll be your moderator for today's session. I am the Strategic Industry Advisor for Professional and Business Services at Workday. Alight Solutions is a leader in the outsourcing business. Alight helps organizations reimagine how to thrive in this competitive marketplace. A recent spin-off from Aon Hewitt and armed with a new brand, Alight was looking for new ways to enable better insights for their global workforce, to drive innovation, and to continue their quest to deliver world-class services to their clients. During this webcast, Alight will highlight their journey and share with us how their partnership with Workday is enabling them to achieve these objectives. Today's session may contain forward-looking statements from Workday. If you'd like more detail on this particular topic, please visit our Investor Relations webpage. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to today's speakers. So again, this is Patrice Capello, your moderator for today. I come to you with over 20 years of experience in the professional and business services industry, and as the lead global go-to-market for the professional and business services at Workday. Next up, we have Stephen Bandrzak, Chief Operating Officer and Chief Information Officer at Alight. Steve oversees the application portfolio as well as the technical infrastructure of Alight's organization. That includes digital and print operations, operational performance, enterprise risk management, real estate, as well as supply chain. More than 30 years of experience as an IT professional, Stephen has an impressive and proven track record of growing businesses through innovation. Stephen has held senior executive roles at Sutherland Global Services, HP Enterprises, Avaya, Nortel, and Lenovo, to name a few. Also, we're happy to have Thomas Schrader, Global Product Strategy Lead at Alight. Thomas is Alight Solutions Workday Financials Practice Lead, who has responsibility for Alight's internal project as well. Thomas has over 6 years of experience delivering cloud-based enterprise financial solutions to global organizations. In his current role as Product and Strategy Lead, Thomas is responsible for all deployments of Alight Solutions Workday Financials practice globally, and for leading and growing Alight Solutions Workday Financial practice in North America, Europe, and Asia. Thomas has held a variety of roles for cloud-based enterprise solutions, including sales management at Aon Hewitt and project management, as well as delivery architecture with OmniPoint. He's also published several papers on cloud considerations for organizations implementing cloud-based financial applications. And finally, today, we will hear from Mark David, Senior Director of Product Strategy at Workday. So Mark is Workday's Director of Industry for Professional and Business Services, and he's helping to shape our product vision. Mark has over 20 years of experience in the ERP space and has held senior management roles in product management, industry strategy, as well as consulting. For our agenda today, what we are going to do is just spend a few moments talking about Workday's focus on the professional services industry, and then we will we'll hear from Alight on their journey towards streamlining HR, service delivery, and financial processes. And then at the end, Mark will cover Workday's vision and roadmap specific to this industry. And then we'll wrap up the hour again, as I'd mentioned, taking Q&A, provided that there's time for that. So please, just as a reminder, use your Q&A widget to ask your questions. So I think it's important as the go-to-market lead to talk to you a little bit about Workday's focus on the professional and business services industry. This industry is a strategic one for Workday, and it's why I joined Workday. So that strategic industry means that we have a funded roadmap specific to professional and business services, as well as a dedicated industry go-to-market and product strategy team. And it's really incumbent upon us to work together, the two teams, to ensure that our solution continues to drive value and success at our customers. And we don't just work just side by side, but we also like to work with our customers and getting direct feedback from them in terms of where we're headed. So there are a number of different opportunities when you join as a customer to be part of this professional and business services community. So there'll be a number of face-to-face events where we get to interact with you. Rising is one that comes to mind because our North America Rising is in 2 weeks in October. And there'll be much about our industry happening during those days. And we also have we will host industry advisory councils in different locations where we meet in smaller groups, but we invite you in as a customer to come and talk to us about your experience, validate what we're hearing about what's happening in the industry, and what challenges you're trying to solve for from a business perspective. And then there's also this Workday community for our industry where firms can network with one another virtually. We enable firms to be able to ask questions, advice, potentially put things out there like, hey, have you ever experienced this issue and how did you resolve it? So it's a great opportunity to work with your peers beyond just being a Workday customer. But also it's an opportunity for your customers to vote on various elements we may be, or functionality we may be adding to the solution. So we always want to be in partner and in concert with where our customers need to go. So I think that's important to share with you, as most of you that are joining today are part of professional and business services or may have an embedded organization. And with that, I am going to turn the presentation over. We're absolutely delighted to have you, Stephen and Thomas, with us today, and we really look forward to hearing Alight's story.
Patrice, thank you so much, and thank you for everybody on the phone for spending some time with us. It is an honor and a pleasure to talk to you a little bit about Alight and candidly our partnership with Workday. But before I start, a little insight to my background. Just 3 short years ago, sat at the CIO table within HP. HP at the time was a $110 billion entity. 3 short years later, it's now broken up into 4 different groups. November of last year, joined the company Aon, and here we are 9 months later. We now have spun out one of the business units, and we have a new Blackstone portfolio company in the market in the industry today. Take a look at what's happened with Amazon acquisition of Whole Foods. Take a look at technology and the drivers and the rate and pace in which it is changing. And so message is the world is changing in a rapidly pace that we've never seen before. Certainly in my 30 years, I've had the pleasure of doing 55 acquisitions and integrations over my career. I've seen technology changes through the years, but have never seen the rate and pace like we have seen recently. And so as we look at spinning off Alight and now creating a new entity under the Blackstone portfolio, what I'm going to share with you is a little bit of background on Alight, share with you why and the project and decisions that we made in and around partnering with Workday, talk to you about the business challenges that we're really trying to go solve. And so if you take a look at Alight, one of the things that we have tremendous impact on customers around the world. 25 years of operating history, working with some of the largest companies in the world to provide health, wealth, HR, financial, and consumer experience solutions around the world that are unmatched and unparalleled. 14 global delivery centers, over 22,000 colleagues that we have. We have over 450 million interactions with people and their families, life-changing and important life events that we help our clients and customers navigate through each and every day. Serve over 19 million people in our environment, plus their family and their extended families. You can take a look at the numbers in terms of processes. The reality is we do a tremendous amount for our customers in and around health, wealth, and our HR and finance space. But more importantly, it's really helping customers to really try to understand what is happening with their employees and the marriage of consumerization and the impact of consumerization on the enterprise. These worlds are colliding at a rapid pace and really challenging all of us to think differently about the services that we provide. HR, tremendous challenge around talent retention, maximizing your entire workforce, making sure that you got the right people in the right place at the right time, and making sure that you have the best value proposition for retention. In the finance space, obviously making sure, not just from a finance standpoint in terms of counting the numbers, but strategically, what are the things that you can do with the right finance environment? I mentioned HP splitting that into 4 different environments in a 3-year period of time. Never would have happened if we didn't make the right strategic decisions on some of the key platforms that we have chosen. One of those was Workday that we made many, many years ago, one of the largest implementations of Workday, and in fact was an enabler of driving the speed of separation and driving the speed of the things in which we had done. As you start to take a look at, some of the reasons and the things that we are doing here at Alight, and you start to take a look at our business drivers, the reality is some of them are pretty similar. So traditionally, when you spin off a business, you have what they call a transition service agreement, meaning that Aon provides services to us, and we need to separate and stand up our own environment. One of those environments, or 2 of those environments, is our HR environment and our finance and accounting environment, both of which we've decided to partner with Workday and really drive our HR strategy and our finance and accounting strategy with Workday and their platform. Decision we'll talk about a little bit later, but really driven by making sure that we meet the changing needs of the business and candidly what we can't even anticipate as we go forward. If you take a look at what we're trying to do relative to speed and how we can go speed to market, and I call it speed to value, the reality is we're going to stand up this environment in less than 2 quarters. Think about that. Full HR, full finance systems in less than 2 quarters and getting up and running. In that, we will wrap around robotics. In that, we'll wrap around end-to-end process improvement. So we're not only transforming and getting up on a new platform, we're looking at our end-to-end business design. I have the fortune of having an internal team that does nothing but drive design in an advisory services, in a build services, and a run services. We've got a business inside of Alight that helps companies in and around the world, and Thomas and team will talk about that in a little while. But I've got the luxury of using that internal team to really try to go and drive speed to value. Significant run rate decrease. We're all challenged with our overall cost and our overall cost in terms of percentage by employee, however you want to measure that. But we are going to significantly reduce our overall costs while driving to a more strategic platform that will position us better in the future. And we're partnering internally. As I said, we're partnering and really designing this solution to help other companies. One of the things that's really important when you're in a services business is you got to have the right platform and you got to have the right capabilities to measure, monitor, and make sure that your people are in the right place, aligned with the right demand and aligned with the right implementations that you're trying to drive. And obviously Workday positions us extremely, extremely well for doing that. So as you start to take a look at what are the business objectives and really what are some of the key things that we were trying to solve? First, we've got some current pain points. We've got some old and aging platforms. We've got an Oracle internal finance system, which candidly is just killing me in terms of maintenance costs and maintenance ability. We have an internal proprietary stand-up environment, and we are going to absolutely fix this and get to a modernized cloud scale environment that gives me flexibility and gives me the ability to react to the market. More importantly, though, it gives me a good, modern, current look and feel with my internal employees. Nothing worse than your internal employees coming in and sitting down to old technology and sitting down to technology that doesn't have mobile capabilities. Just think about today when I want to roll up and I want to see how many employees do I have, what's their current salary, how do I roll it up by environment, and then how can I do strategic things like if I move somebody from Chicago to, say, India, what does that look like? And I can do that right on my mobile phone in the future with the Workday implementation. Spans and controls. I can take a look at when people have had their last review, their last raise, etc., right there on my mobile device. No longer do I have to call HR services, have them run a report, put the request in, maybe I get it days later. And so the reality is we're going to get and we're going to absolutely have some of the best practices right there on the phone. We're also looking at cleaning up our entire environment. So how do you take a look at employee job descriptions, hierarchies in terms of where they are, and then we're going to turn and drive everything we do from a security standpoint right directly back to our HR implementation, our Workday implementation. So if you think about system security, what applications people should have access to when they hire, when they retire, when they get fired, you want them when they get hired to turn on access to systems and data based on their job profile, and when they leave, you want that to automatically happen when we turn it off. We will use our Workday implementation as the system of record for onboarding, but more importantly, a key strategic differentiator in terms of how we look at security and how we look at access to our environment. We have a tremendously scalable business. It changes. We have a variety of workers that come in during what we call the enrollment season. So think about your own companies. If you're in the U.S. today and you're getting ready to start to change benefits enrollment based on insurance requirements, we bring on a very significant workforce that is temporary during that period of time. This will help us significantly be able to bring employees on, move them over both as contractors and temp labor in the future. And we talked about automation and robotics. One of the things that we're doing and keying as a team is we want to make sure we're not only implementing best capabilities within Workday, but the reality is there are things that we can flat out automate. There are things that we can flat out have robotics do from an end-to-end business processes. Just think about receivables, payables. There are things that you can do automatically through robots through low-end business processes that you can tie and integrate in and around your Workday environment. And last on the technology goals, obviously want to simplify the environment, obviously want to make sure that we have a modern stack in terms of capabilities and support staff. But the reality is we want to get to a single view of the truth from our finance system and a single view of the truth from all of our HR records. And so what we get at the end of this is two modern platforms in our finance and our HR platforms, gives us a consumer end user look and feel, gives us a modern feel, gives us flexibility, and candidly puts me in a position where I can react to the company regardless of where they want to go relative to integrations, relative to acquisitions, spin-offs. I have two platforms that puts me very well strategically in a great position. To move forward on more details, let me turn you over to Thomas. Thomas, you want to give everybody an update on the balance of the program?
Yeah, thanks, Steve. So hello, everybody. Appreciate having the opportunity today to talk to you guys. It's definitely an exciting time at Alight, not only with the spin-off and the refocus on our internal business with supporting our clients, but also with some of our technology goals internally as an organization. So as Stephen mentioned, kind of at a high level what's within the project, I wanted to dive just a little bit deeper on some of the specifics of our actual project, some of those dates, and some of the results that we are actually measuring within our business case of some of those results, as I mentioned, that we're going to bring back to the business. So starting with the actual project itself, really just a high-level categorization of what pieces of Workday that we are going to be moving to, and then I'll talk a little bit about how we're actually rolling this out. So the focus really for us as an organization was really around professional services automation from a Workday perspective. So for those in a legacy operating platform, you might call it order to cash, but really focusing on our core business of consulting services was really our paramount when we were looking at what piece of technology was the biggest driver for this project. In order to do that and really to get the value out of an enterprise platform like Workday, we really had to focus on the entire suite from Workday. So if you look here on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see human capital management, payroll, and then financial management. And what does this mean? So really when we look at a lot of the things Stephen was talking about, kind of a life cycle of a professional services firm, and focusing on the people side first. So we're rolling out human capital management. So everything associated with the employee, kind of the components of their employee records, their performance, the onboarding, all of those components on the HR side, rolling out Workday's payroll management application in the U.S. and Canada, and then getting into the finance side, the core financials, accounts payable, accounts receivable, obviously the time entry and expense entry for employees' entry and expense reports, but then also getting into some of the cool stuff when we start talking about project billing, all the capabilities around revenue management, billing, rev rec schedules, as well as Workday's recently released planning application. So the goal from a technology perspective is really to be able to maximize our operating procedures when we think about that end-to-end process of sourcing resources for projects, handling all of the time entry, expense entry of all those employees that are working with our external clients in one system, and then handling, not only the billing component, but all the forecasting and modeling as well. For us as a business, having the flexibility that Steve had mentioned about, grabbing resources, moving them from different locations to work on specific projects, being able to do modeling and project profitability reporting before and after projects are done was something that was absolutely appealing and needed to be deployed at the same time in order for us to actually realize some of those benefits. So if we look at the rollout there, our focus, we actually kicked off this project in the June timeframe here in 2017. So Steve had mentioned, we're going to be going live at the end of this year with our global HR, payroll, and the financial platform for our European population. And one of the main drivers there, as Stephen had covered, was this spinoff. There's the necessity of speed to stand up and get self-sufficient on our own technology stack at Alight. And what we did is we looked at the prioritization of kind of uncomplicating, for lack of a better description, that web of technology. Stephen mentioned kind of the core ERP landscape where we have multiple applications, but when we dove down, and this is something I would recommend to any organization, is looking at some of those quick wins to get off of a lot of those systems to really consolidate. In looking at our technology stack, we were using 4 different applications in Europe, and being able to consolidate those 4 different applications in Europe had a much larger cost savings for us, and then focusing on the global population in phase 2 just for finance. So to clarify that again, end of this year, it's the global population on HR and payroll, along with our European population with financials, including PSA. And then the secondary phase, which will be going live 1/1/2019, will be the rest of the world, so really the North American component as well as our Asia-Pacific operating entities. When we think about the next piece there, you see that on the right, it's kind of our post-production environment. So one of the things that we've gained a lot of knowledge, actually coming from Aon, them being a live Workday customer, as well as what we see out in the ecosystem is this concept of cloud technology and really ensuring that the organization has a plan set up to realize the actual value of an investment into a cloud SaaS application. So, very different from a legacy application environment, as we know, targeting the continuous innovation of Workday and the twice-a-year upgrade is definitely a driver in our business case, and it's something that we wanted to make sure that we were taking advantage of, as opposed to kind of the build and leave it concept, which is typically done with legacy applications. So one of the things that we're going to be doing is standing up an internal team that will be supporting the application, so doing things like monitoring upgrades and new pieces of functionality that's released by Workday twice a year, as well as actually our internal team will not actually be running Workday. So as Stephen mentioned, there's a lot of investments we're doing around RPA and OCR technology internally to really free up resources to focus on working with our clients. And so we're looking to leverage this technology and these resource teams to actually support internal and external clients that are actually operating Workday across HR, payroll, and financials. All right, so moving on, the next piece I mentioned I wanted to jump into is really the anticipated results. So when you think about a business case, every organization is looking at a technology and has to actually validate a business case. There's certain hard dollars and cents that need to be realized as an organization, but when you think about some of the other soft savings here, it's really getting into some of those improvements to the organization that at times they're a little bit difficult to quantify, but it is things that we're looking at tracking as an organization, and it's definitely goals from an operational perspective, as Steve had mentioned, that we're looking to accomplish. So when we think about those real anticipated results, I think the biggest thing that we're really looking at is a global standardization. So by nature of Aon, which is a company that we spun off of, Aon is a very acquisitive company and netted about 15 acquisitions per year. And with that came a lot of different procedures, a lot of different vested parties, and different technology applications. So our ultimate goal is to really move towards a standardization of business processes in the essence of project sourcing all the way to actually billing of our clientele base from a global perspective. And so that's definitely the most paramount thing. It's something that we're going to be measuring within our processes. It's something that Workday has the capabilities to do, to start looking at how long it takes us to actually staff projects, how long it takes us to recognize bill, revenue, so on and so forth. The second, when we think about the automation components, it's definitely kind of the buzzwords when you start talking about RPA. It's definitely something that we're looking at Workday to automate, as well as starting to get into invoice processing type technology. So I mentioned OCR and RPA, really looking at leveraging a modern application to streamline those and really take folks out of the day-to-day data entry work and put them into actual strategic roles. We're really anticipating using Workday to accomplish that within our processes. And I'll jump the next one because I kind of talked about it, but I think the other piece that was very informative is really the increased visibility. So it's always difficult as an organization when you have multiple systems of truth. So for us, looking at that global resource pooling to staff projects, as Steve had mentioned, we engage with clients all over the world, and it's very important for us to identify the best resources for the job, for the contract, for the project, whatever it might be as we're working externally with clients. And having a single consolidated system gives us the ability to locate resources with the particular skill sets, competencies, language proficiencies, whatever it might be to serve our clients. It's definitely something that our staffing managers are very excited about, as opposed to managing things offline in spreadsheets, so on and so forth. The reduction of order to cash is pretty self-explanatory. If we think about the different procedures that we're going through as an organization, with multiple systems carries multiple experts that are supporting those systems and data being shared hand over hand to different people between those systems. So we're really looking at really cutting down the operational cost for us to actually bill and manage clients. Again, the easy fix for this is just really a consolidation of technology, but with that comes a natural consolidation of resources associated with which pieces of kind of that wheel that they're supporting. And with that, of course, that single global platform, it definitely helps us have a much better idea, especially when you start managing and validating indirect and direct costs. We're not going to be moving in a direction where we're estimating costs associated with resources. We actually will have the ability to look at the actual resources, do modeling based on the direct and indirect spend associated with estimated expenses and actual true payroll cost for our project profitability from a global perspective. So it's definitely something that will give a much greater value to our clients and give us the ability to manage our projects in a much more efficient manner and pass those cost savings onto our clients externally. The final piece, it's down here in the green box, and I wanted to mention this because I think this is something that a lot of organizations take for granted. And Steve had mentioned kind of the capabilities from a mobile perspective. So, we were really coming from Aon and being an Aon employee for several years, we're really in a position in which there was a substantial amount of manual processes. And we knew that trying to bring resources in straight out of college, the best and brightest, and having to explain the concept of faxing in hard copies of receipts to employees, and the concept of memorization of project account string codes for them to actually enter time. It was not something that we wanted to do to attract that top talent. We really wanted to make sure that we were focusing on kind of the ease of use of getting our employees to enter time, enter expenses timely and efficiently, and the user experience of having only one system for them to do that, is something that you can't put a value on. For us, especially with our folks in Europe, if they were working on a U.S. project, there's the dual time entry, there's dual expense entry, and all of those things that leads to headaches within our internal workforce. And it was definitely something that, it's not something necessarily you can manage or, measure with a kind of dollars and cents component, but it's definitely something that we're anticipating, talking with our internal resources about projects. All right, so with that said, I'm going to pass it back over to Workday.
Okay, well, thank you, Thomas. So my name is Mark David, as Patrice had mentioned in the beginning, and I focus on the professional services industry and have responsibility for our roadmap and strategy from product strategy. So I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about what we're doing, what our top topics are from a Workday perspective, what our roadmap looks like, and some of our strategic investments. So let's get started here. Okay, so if you look at Workday, the story really needs to start with what we provide today and why customers have come to Workday up until this point. And that's really been for all the reasons that you just heard from the Alight folks, from Steve and from Thomas. The unified solution, we have a unified solution for human capital management, for professional services automation, for financial management, all on one single native cloud platform with embedded real-time analytics. And so it really simplifies not only the technical landscape, but also the management of a professional services business. As an example, a leader within professional services, they could have one dashboard where they can answer very complex questions with traditional landscapes. They can, in one view, see what their overall P&L is for their professional services business. They can look at their total customer project portfolio health and status. They can get a quick view of their resource demand supply and capacity. Do they have enough skills and people for customer projects? And even down to a point of, are we healthy from a cash and collections basis? So this was always a very unique part about the Workday solution and the experience, allowing you to really kind of get one view of your business, being able to drill from this executive view into the actual transactions to make this happen and make your business run on a daily basis. So with our solution, we in July announced that we are extending our capabilities with our platform as a service. So in addition to our world-class cloud platform, we now will allow customers, service integration partners, and eventually software partners to extend our platform. So here we're talking about providing developer tools. We'll enable this for our user experience layer. We'll provide a variety of different embedded productivity tools. So our core applications, some of the things that you heard about from Thomas and Steve around finance and talent. And we'll also be leveraging our Workday analytics capability, something we call Prism, to open up and bring together multiple sources of data to have a more enterprise-level business intelligence solution. So together with this native cloud platform and these leading applications, we feel like Workday is well-positioned to meet the needs of your business in the future. So when we look at our initiatives and what are some of the challenges that we're trying to overcome with our solution capability within Workday, we'll start kind of left to right here. And we really focus on talent and people. And I think that last point by Thomas was particularly interesting, where you talk about the employees and their experience and their engagement and this is a continual challenge. The other challenge that professional services firms will have is around gaining and attracting that talent, so making sure that they get the right skills that are in demand by their customers. So this whole topic around managing of a talent network, whether those be people already within your firm working today, whether they be contractors that you're working with, or whether they be candidates or even prospects within your recruiting pipeline, what we feel is a very strategic topic and has a lot of challenges for the professional services industry that need to be overcome. In the area of professional services automation, there's a lot that we're doing from a Workday perspective for PSA for the professional services industry. One area in particular that the Alight folks had mentioned was around the ability to more plan for the future. So this relates to the fact that you want to be able to get visibility to the opportunities coming to you. These are future customer opportunities, but also to plan your business. So what type of people do you need? What's the future outlook of my project revenue and forecast? All the way down to being able to execute the financials of those projects and customer engagements. But really, kind of it starts with having a good plan in place. The other side of professional services automation that we feel is also a strategic investment topic for us is around the topic of resource management. So bringing the proper skills to customer projects is critical for your business. Obviously, you want to get successful customers, happy customers, referenceable customers, and build your business for the long term. So we look at the resource management or that demand-supply matching process as more of a marketplace. So these are people existing within your company today, people that might be on your bench or customer projects, contractors, or it could be even candidates in your recruiting pipeline. In terms of the areas of quote to cash, we see a lot of innovation happening, and we talked a little bit about the need to be more agile within professional services. So we see customers wanting to have a full end-to-end process around the opportunity to cash process, so connecting into their CRM solutions and trying to do a seamless transition between an opportunity stage and a project stage. But also we see innovation that's happening not only from the end-to-end process view, but also the types of services that professional services firms are bringing to market. So we see a variety of different client projects, managed services, even digital products, whether that might be online analytics, that might be accelerators or software-like products. So being able to handle all these revenue streams seamlessly is a key strategic initiative for us. And then, as you heard as well too, the real-time analytics, being able to get the insights that you need, what's happening in your business today, and then also the access for your employees. So you cannot just have a future where all of your employees are disconnected with your firm and they're out there on customer projects and they don't feel like they're really connected to your organization. That leads to higher attrition and lower employee satisfaction. So allowing employees self-service and access to critical insights into your business is also something we see as strategic. So I'll start on the management of talent networks, and here we'll divide it into two topics. The first topic is really a recruiting topic. We feel that the whole recruiting life cycle is extremely critical for professional services organizations. Obviously, recruiting the right talent and skills will allow you to win business, and that has a direct impact on customer satisfaction and revenue. And so what we're doing from a Workday perspective is a couple things. One, we want to make sure that the experience that candidates are having is a better experience. It's no longer acceptable that somebody applies at your firm and then that goes into a black hole and they never hear back, right, from you, or they don't know where they are in the process. So we're providing a lot of collaboration and automation capabilities to allow those candidates to get that insight, understand where they are in the process, and get feedback from you. The other thing we're doing from a Workday perspective is we're looking at not only the candidate process when somebody actually applies to a position at your firm, but also going upstream and starting to cultivate pools of resources, whether they be campus pools, whether they be pools of resources of certain skill types, in more of the prospecting stage before they even apply to your business. So really getting into what's called candidate relationship management and prospecting. A lot of work that we're doing is to make that process easier and allow you to get a fuller pipeline of skills into your organization. The second topic around this whole talent network is around once you have identified employees and they start coming into your organization, you need to make sure that you engage these employees throughout their total employee life cycle. I mean, this needs to start from the candidate phase to when you onboard them, to making sure that they have a very fast time to productivity, to making sure that they connect with the right people and peers, they have the right data, that they start to get set up appropriately for their first project assignment, that they can get a continuous feedback and learning approach, can be learning on the fly, on the go, on any device. Obviously, everybody in professional services, these types of employees tend to want to learn. They want to understand the latest and greatest in terms of technology and business process, and giving them an environment to do that is extremely critical. And then also to look at a performance and feedback process that becomes more ongoing, maybe more project or work-centric, and allowing you to have that employee experience through the whole life cycle of that employee as they are an employee to your firm, and then making sure that they can do this in the context, as you heard from Thomas, that is appropriate for them. And this is usually mobile. This is usually on the fly, on the go, and potentially at the client sites or while they're traveling. The next area of strategic development that we're looking at from a Workday perspective is the area around resource management, and we want to support absolutely the centralized resource management approaches. And as talked about, we want to match your current projects, your future opportunities, and anything that you have, even from an internal project that might be strategic, with the right type of people, the right skills, their experience. We feel this matching process is extremely critical for your business. We feel that this is also an underserved area. So Workday, we natively have all that information about your workers that are required for you to actually match those people against a project. Usually customers are more interested in people's experience, the right type of project with the right type of skills, as opposed to the traditional view of resource management from the consulting side, which might have been just finding people who had availability. So really taking this whole resource management process to the next stage. Also want to talk to you about the area of opportunity to cash. So in addition to getting the people that you need, making sure that they have a great experience, putting them on projects that will make your firm successful, you need to make sure that you can account for revenue, and that this needs to be automated and streamlined. And the different types of revenue streams we're seeing for professional services businesses is definitely changing. So obviously, project-based revenue streams hanging off of your customer contracts or orders, as you heard from the Alight folks, will continue to be critical for the professional services business. But we're seeing a variety of innovation happening here. Again, whether you're providing a consumption or usage-based model for, let's say, research data, or you provide a subscription to online analytics, or you might be shipping out a good, which might be a research report, let's say. However you're getting the revenue, however you're getting that business, you need to make sure that this is automated. And at Workday, we provide a solution-based approach where you can sell a variety of different solutions to market, and we can automatically bill, count for revenue recognition, and invoice and settle these processes. In addition, on this opportunity to cash process, we talked about the innovation and the different types of revenue streams, but we also want to make sure that you have a full end-to-end process and approach. So we actually launched our Salesforce connector, which is on the Salesforce App Exchange for those using Salesforce for CRM. And here you can seamlessly transition your opportunities to projects within Workday. This is a bi-directional integration. So we for sure extract information from Salesforce, including opportunities and customer data, and we can provide information like customer activity back to your Salesforce environment. In addition to that, one of our strategic development items that we're working on is the whole concept around project opportunity management. We think this is another key area of innovation. So not trying to replace what you're doing in CRM, but to collect the information from CRM so that you can do initial planning, initial budgeting, maybe soft booking of resources against early stage opportunities, and then again allowing you to transition seamlessly into an active project. And then finally, I just want to quickly hit on one area of innovation, and this is really extending what we feel is our leadership position for the space of professional services, both ERP, HCM, and PSA. And that's our ability to do very robust reporting and scorecarding within the tool. We have a solution called Workday Prism, which now allows you to collect information from other operational systems within your environment. If you have data that lays outside of the Workday instance, you can actually bring that data in and use that in context to make critical business decisions. So again, allowing you to access, blend, and transform any of this data that you see from these systems or other systems into your Workday environment. Okay, so with that, I think I'm turning it back over to Patrice, and we're going into our Q&A portion of the presentation.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark. Appreciate it. And it looks like a few questions did come in throughout our presentation. So I'll start with my friends from Alight. Question came in for you asking what made Workday so appealing for you given your PSA requirements?
Yeah, Patrice, Steve Banjak. So first of all, a couple of things. In the service business, obviously the ability to be able to match our resources against customer requirements and making sure that we get the right speed and the right resource provide value to our customers, as well as, how do we track the resources going forward, align it with our pipeline in terms of opportunities, and then making sure that we can then take that information and get it to accurate billing and get it to actual financials that we need to track as part of those professional services. So really aligning talent, aligning resources, and then making sure that we get it and we tie it to the right billing. I would say the other piece of it is, and we talked a little bit about, the ability to be able to attract and retain. So you're constantly building a pipeline of inbound talent. You're constantly matching talent against requirements. You're constantly matching and mixing the workforce in and around the globe. So your workforce optimization, both internal and potential resources coming in, is extremely important for us going forward. So Thomas, anything else you would add on that?
I think, Steve, you hit on the main points. I think one additional thing, and Mark had talked about it, was the integration capabilities with Salesforce, which is the CRM that we actually use. So the kind of packaged integrations that Workday offers was very appealing for us as well, to bring a lot of the opportunity-related information over to Workday and actually track against that. Was definitely one of the things that our internal team was looking at for kind of the true project costing component. When you start looking at cost of sales, sometimes it's difficult to track, and it was definitely a very important and compelling feature that Workday offered. But otherwise, at a high level, I think you hit it right on the head, Steve.
Perfect. Great. Thanks for that. Question 2 for Alight. What advice would you give a company evaluating Workday or any other cloud solution?
Yeah, thanks, Patrice. Steve, again, let me start and I'll turn it over to Thomas. So I think a couple of things. For us, it was really important that we used our internal advisory services. These are professionals that have done it many, many times, not just from a technical standpoint, but really helping you in and around the process, helping you in and around data integration, helping you in and around how do you get your data definitions and, how do you really launch this thing in the best possible way, as well as looking at your end-to-end processes. It's just not about, how do we turn out Workday? It's really how do we enable our business and maximize the complete value that Workday gives. And then I would say the last thing that I would say is as you start to take a look at this environment, you've got to understand your integration points. We talked about Salesforce integration, there's finance integration, you may have other systems. And so the more you can bring on somebody up front in an advisory capacity that understands these integration, these data conversion points, it will help you and serve you well as you go down the path in your implementation. Thomas, anything else?
Yeah, so one thing I'd add as it relates to the actual evaluation is really, it definitely ties into the advisory function that you were mentioning, Steve, but really focusing on looking at Workday or any cloud vendor differently, right? Not approaching a project or an evaluation the same way that you've approached an on-premise application or any sort of legacy application. It's very important. So obviously having someone that can advise you on that, I think, is very important. So making sure you're challenging the internal decision-making process to actually use the technology to enable the type of change, whether that be technology-driven specific from a technology stack perspective or business process optimization, whatever that might be, focusing on working with someone that can challenge you to think differently is definitely paramount in realizing some of that value and very important.
Excellent. Great, thanks for that. Another question for Alight. Based on the current project status, your current project status, is there anything that you would do differently?
Patrice, I think we've had lots of experience, great partnership with Workday. I've had many successful implementations as well as spin-offs and sub-implementations. We've done that. And so from my perspective, I think we're going down the right path and not too much I would do differently. I think, Thomas aligned and set it up really well in terms of the advisory services. And, I'm pushing it as quickly as we can. One advice, not so much from a different standpoint, but really take the opportunity to really redefine how you do work inside your business and make sure that you position yourself in the best possible way. So from my perspective, nothing different. Thomas, anything you think we do different or we should have started differently?
When we get into the project specifics, and this was more just a circumstance of us having to do a lot of things, right? I mean, obviously any divestiture has a lot of complexity around all the different things you're trying to split and carve out and make decisions upon. So not necessarily something that we could have done differently, but really focusing on the resources, right? So for us, with all the segmentation of carving out this new company, there's a lot of kind of separation of duties type discussion when it got down to the individuals that, were retained with Aon or splitting over with Alight. But the main thing I would focus on, I think that would have helped us be a little bit more efficient in design, is just having more of those resources dedicated and backfilling. For us, as I mentioned, it was very quick, and we were kind of running before we were even crawling. But I would definitely encourage organizations that are evaluating any platform is make that investment around your staff, get them trained, get them ready and capable of dedicating time to the project, not only to ensure you get the best design, but also to make sure you get the most amount of knowledge transfer, as these are going to be your resources that are running the system post-go live. So for us, it was just really a circumstantial component of not having probably as many folks as we needed on day one, but it was definitely something that we were able to remedy, as Steve had mentioned, by pulling in a lot of our folks that are dedicated externally to help and kind of staff augment in some of those critical time periods that we had during this project.
Thank you for that. That's fantastic. And I really did appreciate what you had started off saying, Stephen, about the speed to value. So we used to talk in the old days about delivering value, but now it's about when, right? So those insights were great, and you guys certainly have an aggressive timeline, which is great to hear that you expect to meet. Some other, few other questions that we've got time for. Let's see. Sorry here. I'm just trying to read what's in the box. Can you comment, this is back to Alight, on how Workday is meeting your global statutory requirements in each of the countries you have presence in?
Yeah, Patrice, Steve Banjak again. So listen, I've implemented Workday as a partner at HP in over 160 countries, some of the best practice and talent around the world around how you deal with regulatory, data compliance, EU compliance, et cetera. And so They have a tremendous amount of depth and breadth around this, as well as our own internal advisory practice helps us with these things. And so there is a tremendous amount of both experience from big companies. I keep going back to HP, but one of the largest implementations in a number of countries around the world. I know there's a few others that have done it with that size and scale. And with that history comes a tremendous amount of both country, regional knowledge, and how you get through a lot of the regulatory issues. And certainly our internal advisory capabilities helps me with that as well. And so, Thomas, anything else that you would say?
No, and I think you summarized it correctly. Just from a high-level perspective, we have not run into any issues whatsoever. The only issue that we had when we kicked off the project was related to some of the tax withholding functions in India, which we have a very large global delivery centers in India that service a variety of our clients. And the only piece of functionality that we were waiting on from Workday actually was released here in Workday 29, which is this year. So we do not have any issues as far as the local statutory requirements. I think one of the really interesting things about Workday is the framework is there in Workday, and so we were able to leverage a significant amount of design that Workday had done with other clients, that we had done with other clients, and obviously that Aon had done as, we were spinning off from Aon, who was in the midst of a Workday deployment themselves. So we're really able to leverage a substantial amount of that kind of thought leadership and design in Workday because it's the same line of code. We were able to simply stand that up and validate that internally with our internal controllership. But I would say nothing that we've run into to date. Happy to, once we're live, have additional conversations, let you guys know if we ran into anything, but happy to report to date, no issues.
Perfect. Another question for Alight: how much customization of finance was required to meet global finance reporting requirements, i.e. reporting financials in country?
Yeah, so I'll start. We do have and did have a gap in terms of what we needed and where the product was, and I'll let Thomas talk to the roadmap and where we are in closing that gap. But, we feel very comfortable that both the current roadmaps and the current capabilities will close any and all requirements we have. So, Thomas, you want to just talk about our journey on the finance side?
Yeah, so absolutely. So what we did initially is, and this actually goes back to the Aon journey, is we actually sat down with Workday and shared all of our regulatory and statutory reporting requirements by country with Workday. So this was actually in the 2013 timeframe. Obviously fast forwarded to the spinoff, and we really had kind of all of that targeted for any kind of those functional gaps that we had targeted initially. So back in 2013, there were some small things. Think about things like document sequencing in Italy, things that are really kind of the basic blocking and tackling of an application. Since between now and then, that functionality has all been delivered natively by Workday, so there really isn't any pieces of functionality that's missing there. I mentioned the last was really associated with operational tax withholding within India. For us, the way that we're approaching it is, we're building out Workday as a consolidated financial reporting engine to ultimately replace Hyperion, as well for all of our budget forecasting, planning type activities. So what we're actually doing is we started at the beginning of the project and identified all of our global financial reporting requirements, at that global consolidated level, and then down individually into each country. And so there was not any actual customization per se. I know this is more of a terminology discussion when we get into kind of the concept there. But what we were able to do is utilize Workday's native report writer functionality to actually build out specific composite reports by country that were needed for any local statutory type requirements. Things like alternative account sets, multi-book accounting, GAAP and IFRS standards, those sort of things, all delivered natively. It's just a question of configuring the system from an accounting perspective to hit the right buckets. We will be rolling this out at the end of the year for each of those countries and doing a lot of side-by-side parallel reporting, report comparison for those countries that are in phase 2 to get our controllership and internal audit team really comfortable with it. But what I would say is really just a reporting component, really building out those reports in Workday, which is a pretty straightforward non-technical development. It's our internal team that actually does this for external clients. So really leveraging what we already had. We knew what the requirements were. Just a concept of building those reports in Workday.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And unfortunately, there's a few questions that we won't have time to get to. We will certainly get your questions answered. We'll follow up if you've submitted a question after the fact, and we will get the answer from our Alight team or from Mark David, depending on who the recipient should be. So at this point, I would like to conclude our meeting. I want to thank Stephen, Thomas, and Mark so much. You delighted us, entertained us, and certainly educated us. So thanks so much for joining me today to help tell your story and help tell the story of Workday.
Thank you. Have a great day.